This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy and features real testimonials.
This was our first time trying therapy, and honestly, it was long overdue. Looking back, we just wish we had started sooner.
Regain's qualified therapists help couples when they can't get there on their own.
We thought it was intimacy issues, but Andrea helped us uncover a deeper root cause we hadn't even realized was there.
Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. Regain, powered by BetterHelp.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Wilton, joined by Sergeant Wilton. Clint, how are you?
I'm excellent.
So today we're going to talk about why a lot of officers are afraid to just reach out and ask for help, despite how many resources and support is available. And I'm going to kind of pick on you a little bit, Clint, because you're getting ready to have your department's first wellness event. And I sent you a resource that you completely ignored. I asked you about it, and then you brushed it off again. And it was literally a wellness center that you could have completely replicated in order to bring more meaning to an event like this. And in addition to that, a lot of the times there has to be a great deal of framework. And I can say this after building my own coaching practice and working as hard as I have with first responders. It's not a matter of just hosting an event. The event actually is kind of like the healthy consequence of everything else that takes place before that. And I'm sharing this with you now so that you have some expectations of what you can expect for your upcoming wellness event, just so that there isn't any disappointment, but most importantly, so that there's a lot of learning that can take place so that it can be better in the future.
Yeah, it's being able to bridge those gaps where you find a lack of something that you know your department or your team may be facing, and just letting people know there's a resource there, being able to share it, being able to expand upon what you have, because say 90% of the people don't want it or need it, but it's that 10% that you're there to build and support for. Having different resources, and that's what in developing the wellness team and developing everything that we have, it's recognizing where there's a lack, where there's a need. And most people, like we had a survey that we conducted on it, they didn't know what resources were available to them. So having events like this is one, to expand on, okay, these are the resources available to you and here you go.
Yeah, and I want to kind of give you a little bit of how my mind works when it comes to this exact topic. And so it could be something like the podcast that you're listening to right now. It could be something like my Facebook group. It could be conversations that take place in my email and my DMs all of the time. Somebody will come to me with pain points. And those pain points, I put them in a mental bucket. Sometimes I put it on a notepad in my phone. And what happens is this common theme. Life has a funny way of doing this, but there's always this common theme that comes up, like usually weekly or bi-weekly. And that common theme is always a pain point. And so I take stock of that pain point and I'll introduce it into some podcast topics, or I'll introduce it inside of conversations that we have or questions that I ask inside of our Facebook group. And what that does is it takes that pain point and it kind of like helps to clean the wound a little bit before we start to fix anything. And it's such a great thing because then it starts to normalize that conversation. And sometimes I'm shocked actually at the way that people receive that type of content and conversations that are taking place because of everything that I get inside of my personal inbox and the private conversations that I have with people. And so when we normalize things, then it actually allows things to start to feel like it's not a weakness anymore. And if it were me and I was hosting an event like that, I probably would have taken some of those commonalities, right? Because I can tell you 10 of them, like at the top of my head. Every officer's going to, at one point or another in their career, run into these problems. So let's just say that we're talking about, like, are you struggling with intimacy with your partner because you work as a cop? Right? And then I would have done something like gaining a partnership with somebody who could have given me, 500 little things. And I would have taken that little item, something that would be kind of funny. I'm thinking of a condom for some reason. That's what's coming to the top of my head. But like a little asset, a little item, just like something of value that I can give. And I would have put that on like a fact sheet about like a this, then that, right? And it would have been really easy for me to create. And I would have done that type of thing. For 6 months, I would have built this up. And, I can create a video content, right? Like something of value, and kind of get like a handful of officers that like nobody would expect them to share this type of thing, right? But I would have brought them into my studio. I would record a short video. And then like maybe once every 3 weeks, I would be doing this to where I'm pushing out something else for them, sticking all of this inside of their boxes at work. And it's a QR code and they scan it and then it goes to this video, right? But then I also give them like a granola bar, like something of value. And I start to make this thing normal, but I start to engage people within the department. So I'm sharing this type of tactic because I know that this is what has to take place to kind of start to, when you're playing with like clay, not Play-Doh, but clay, and you have to start to massage it and mold it before you can actually build something with it. It's that type of precedence when it comes to working with somebody with something that they've never done before.
Yeah, and it's creating this environment to make it okay to share those stories, to have that conversation, and to know who's there to support you and mold you into what you want to be as an individual. And this is the biggest thing that I see and I've seen in developing this program is everyone has their own agendas. They have their own mindsets of what they want, instead of actually looking into what the department or what individuals need. And you see this all the time within law enforcement is you build something based off your own experience. You build something based off of only what you would want, what you would expect, instead of actually talking to the members, talking to the people to see what they might want or need.
Well, hey, this episode airs on July the 14th, so feel free to use it as a resource if you want to. And, I think that nobody likes to say this, but the biggest complaint that I get, it all derives from admin. And one of the biggest pushbacks that you will always get from police officers is the reason why I don't need, like, first of all, they'll say nothing's wrong, right? Or I'm fine. But then when they finally get past that, then it comes down to like, oh, well, I can't seek out psychotherapy or even talk to a coach or something along those lines because I'm worried of the repercussions. I don't want somebody to put something in my file and flag me. I don't want the locker room talk to take place, even though they swore this was confidential. Like, there are all of these things, but they all derive from admin. And so I would also, I don't allow admin in our Facebook group, for example. Like, I completely vet everybody with different softwares to make sure that I know who's in the group. And so that's another conversation of having something separate for admin altogether. However, that is definitely the biggest problem, is that officers keep suffering with this silence, even though help is within reach, because they're afraid of what might happen if they do open up and they do start to share. And they have this mistrust when it comes to confidentiality because they're worried about their supervisor or HR somehow finding out. And this undermines the safety and the credibility of any kind of program that you might want to put together. And then, of course, we had things like the stigma from peers or the department culture. He's seeing somebody like, oh man, that guy's so weak, or like whatever I'm thinking of a lot of derogatory terms right now. And when you do that, that discourages vulnerability and it creates this sort of emotional isolation.
Yeah, being able to share your story. And I learned something recently that I was kind of shocked by it. It's like, so our internal affairs came to our briefing and they were talking about, confidentialities and being able to speak with a counselor, a psychiatrist, whatever it may be. In a group setting, it is not considered to be in a confidential nature. So if you were to share something that would violate that confidentiality agreement, that meaning of like you're a threat to somebody or a threat to yourself, something to that nature, to where they would have to investigate it from the internal affairs aspect of in a group setting. Now, if it's one-on-one, they don't have any leg to stand on when it comes to that. So it's being mindful of what your policies are, what the laws are associated to it as well.
I'm not sure if you accidentally said that wrong or if they explained that wrong, but like if you tell me as a coach or you tell a psychotherapist or a doctor like I might harm myself or somebody else, you're going to get a wellness check.
No, but what I'm talking about is not something as you're a danger to yourself, and I did mistake that. It's meaning more so of, say there was a policy of violation in which you committed during an incident, and someone reported you for it during that group setting.
Yeah, got it. And I think too that when you understand that you can actually redefine strength as kind of being proactive and not just reactive by making sure that you're getting that kind of help or talking to somebody when you are in crisis or before it gets to a crisis mode, it's going to allow you to make those tactical moves and then be more aware going forward so that subconsciously your mind isn't cluttered with all of this stuff. And of course, you can talk openly with people that you trust. You can educate yourself, as Clint was alluding to about the EAP confidentiality, different types of access, asking the right questions, knowing what your rights are. If you have somebody that you can talk to about what that is, you don't necessarily have to open up about the thing, but just, educate yourself about the confidentiality aspect of things first. And that might make you feel a little bit more comfortable. Use somebody completely outside of your department if you feel more comfortable. There are a lot of benefits, and it can be more than just that mental breakdown. A lot of people don't realize that this often includes things like legal help, family support, financial planning. There's a lot that is available to you. And I think it's important to try to leverage all of it.
Yeah, and it's being able to find those resources that work well with you, and you have to where you can have those conversations and to lean on them.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.